Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, you've brought us something really fascinating to unpack.
I have indeed. It's Chapter 5 from Shrii Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar's The Liberation of Intellect, Neohumanism.
Right. Living beings and their mentality. I'm excited to get into this, focusing on how Sarkar sees living things organizing themselves. It sounds fundamental.
It really is. And, this chapter comes from a series of talks he gave back in the early 80s. They kind of lay the groundwork for neo-humanism.
Which starts with that core idea of love for the supreme, expanding outwards.
Exactly. Expanding to absolutely all beings. It's a truly expansive vision.
So our mission today, for everyone listening, is to explore Sarkar's take on why some creatures are solitary and others live in groups.
Yeah, and it goes way beyond the simple explanations. We'll get into sentiment, group mentality, and humans, the good, and the tricky parts.
Sounds like we're in for some real insights into our own social behavior and maybe possibilities for a more unified future. Let's jump in.
Okay, so Sarkar kicks things off with this really clear, basic division in the living world.
Yeah.
Based on natural law, essentially. You've got beings that live collectively and those that live individually.
Right, the collectivists and the individualists. That seems like the core distinction we need to explore first.
It is. It's the starting point for understanding everything else he builds on.
So it's not just about whether they hang out together, it's deeper.
Oh, much deeper. He looks at the simplest organisms first. Their minds are basically just focused on, is this food? Is this not food? Super basic survival.
The absolute essentials.
Yeah.
Just me and my needs.
Pretty much. But then things get more complex with multicellular life.
And that's where the interaction starts, I guess.
Exactly. He talks about clash and cohesion happening within these organisms. Cells interacting, working together, sometimes conflicting.
Clash and cohesion inside a single being.
Yeah. And he suggests this internal dynamic sort of refines the lower mind. He uses the phrase powdering down into the subtle mind.
Powdering down. I like that image, like smoothing out rough edges.
Kind of. It's this internal process that leads to the subtle mind. And that's crucial for what comes next. Sentiment.
Sentiment. So this is the key development.
It is. He describes it as a switchover. Physical momentum turning into a subtler internal momentum. An impulse.
A subtler momentum, like moving beyond just pure physical reaction, more of an internal nudge.
Precisely. It's not just about external stimuli anymore. It's an internal inclination, a feeling almost. And this sentiment, he says, is what steers beings towards being either individualistic or collective.
Okay, so sentiment is the driver. How does that one thing lead to such different outcomes? Solitary versus group living.
Well, he says it manifests in two main ways. First, there's the individualistic tendency. The feeling is something like, I will shine in my own glory.
Right. Self-reliance, standing alone.
Exactly. Think of tigers, maybe some wild dogs. Their core impulse is towards individual achievement, you could say.
Makes sense. And the other way?
That's the collective tendency. The sentiment here is more like, if we unite our intellects, we become stronger.
Strength in unity. Collaboration.
Yes. And this is where you see lions and prides, elephants with their strong family bonds, even pigeons flocking together.
They're driven by this feeling that being together is better, safer, more effective.
Their sentiment pushes them towards community.
Yeah.
But here's the really interesting part, the bit that challenges assumptions.
Go on.
It's not always tied to how smart the creature is.
Oh. Like, intelligence doesn't automatically mean one way or the other.
Not necessarily, no. He gives examples. Think about sheep. They live in big groups, right? But we don't usually think of them as intellectual giants.
Okay, true.
Compare that to, say, some solitary cat species, which are clearly very intelligent hunters, or lions living in groups versus the often solitary, maybe even more individually clever tiger.
So it really hammers home that sentiment, that basic impulse is the key factor here, not just raw brain power.
That's his point, exactly. It's a fundamental tendency driven by sentiment at this stage.
Fascinating. So, okay, bringing it to us then, where do humans fit in Sarkar's picture?
He puts us firmly in the collective category. Our basic tendency is towards group living.
Right. We're social animals, as they say.
Definitely. But, and this is crucial, the way we are collective depends on our psychic framework. Our thinking matters.
Our thinking. How so?
It's about why we form groups. Is it just thinking we'll get more stuff if we stick together, like we shall be greatly benefited?
A practical, maybe slightly transactional view.
Sort of. Or is it a deeper sense that grouping together will be more conducive to our development? A feeling that collaboration helps us grow, progress.
That second one sounds, well, more aspirational, more about potential.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And he specifically tackles that old idea that, our canine teeth mean we're supposed to be aggressive individualists or something.
Right, that argument.
Yeah, he points to lions' big teeth, very social.
Huh?
Then solitary cats, also sharp teeth, but live alone. It just doesn't hold up.
So it's not about the teeth, it's about the mind, our mental constitution.
Absolutely. It's about our internal landscape. And this leads to something unique in humans.
Which is?
We have both this sentimentality, like other creatures, and a much more developed intellect, a logical mind.
Ah, okay. So sentiment pulls us together, but then logic comes into play. That sounds complicated.
It can be. This combination can lead to what he calls groupism, or a demisocial mentality.
Groupism, like our collective life gets overly colored by sentiment.
Exactly. It's where sentiment and logic can start to clash. Our rational side might see things one way, but our emotional attachments to the group pull us another.
I can definitely see how that plays out. And he mentions something about instincts waning as intellect grows.
Yeah, think about basic survival instincts in babies. They're strong.
Yeah.
But as we learn and develop our intellect, those raw instincts become less dominant.
Okay.
And then as logic develops further, it can actually start to push back against pure sentimentality. We might start questioning our group loyalties more rationally.
So more logic could mean less blind following of sentiment. That sounds potentially positive.
It does hold that potential. But Sarkar warns that even as logic grows, that collective tendency fueled by sentiment, what he calls socio-sentiment, is still incredibly powerful in humans.
Socio-sentiment, okay.
And he says this is where the real danger lies, if we're not careful.
Danger. Why is socio-sentiment so problematic? He calls it 1,000,000 times more harmful than geo-sentiment, right? That's strong language.
It is strong. His reasoning is that socio-sentiment group loyalty based on shared beliefs, identity, nationality, even family ties, is far more effective at clouding our rational judgment than simple attachment to a place.
Because it's tied up with our emotions, our identity.
Exactly. It creates these powerful us versus them dynamics, often based on irrational beliefs or superstitions, he argues. It makes it hard to think clearly, to empathize outside the group.
So it fuels conflict between groups, subgroups,
Wow.
even within families, if interests clash with group sentiment.
That's the dynamic he describes. And he connects it to broader societal issues, suggesting that if our logic doesn't keep pace, doesn't learn to critically assess these powerful sentiments, it can lead to increased stress, mental health challenges.
Wow, that's quite the diagnosis of the potential downsides.
It is, but understanding it is key. He sees it playing out when groups prioritize their own socioeconomico-political interests above all others, ignoring the needs and rights of outsiders.
Driven by that us-first sentiment.
Precisely. And he's quite critical of those who might preach peace, but are still fundamentally driven by this kind of sentimental groupism.
The first-class hypocrites line.
Yes, the keep your powder dry mentality, as he puts it. It's a call for something much deeper than superficial peace agreements.
A demand for genuine, universal thinking, moving beyond narrow group loyalty.
Absolutely. He believes humanity's reached a point where we have to consciously overcome this sentimental group mentality to survive and thrive. It's presented as an urgent necessity for our future.
Okay, it's a serious challenge he lays out. But Sarkar's philosophy isn't just about pointing out problems, is it? It's fundamentally optimistic, aiming for progress. What's the way forward? What's the solution he offers?
The solution, the firm foundation he proposes, is SAMASAMAJ.
SAMASAMAJ. Tell us about that. It sounds important.
It's incredibly important, and yes, deeply optimistic. It's based on a simple, profound realization. All living beings want to survive. They want to exist.
The fundamental will to live.
Exactly. And because of that shared desire, everyone, every being has a right to remain in the world and have their fundamental needs met. It's a principle of universal right based on shared existence.
Wow. That feels incredibly foundational and unifying. How does that translate practically? What would a society based on that look like?
Practically, it means we have a collective responsibility to ensure everyone has the basics: food, clothes, education, shelter, medical treatment, everything needed to live a full, healthy life for as long as possible.
Meeting essential needs for survival and dignity.
Yes, enabling everyone to live and contribute. But it goes further. He also stresses providing inexhaustible resources for spiritual progress. It's holistic body, mind, and spirit.
So it's not just material well-being, but also supporting inner growth and development for everyone. That's a truly forward-thinking vision.
It really is. It addresses the whole person, the whole society, based on this shared right to thrive.
A powerfully optimistic framework.
Definitely. And Sarkar's conclusion is clear. All expressions of human life, social, economic, political, must be grounded in the Sama-Sama Tattva. That's the path beyond the dangers of socio-sentiment towards a genuinely harmonious future.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. We've journeyed from basic impulses in simple life to the complex interplay of sentiment and logic in humans.
Highlighting how powerful sentiment is, how tricky groupism can be, but also
presenting this incredibly positive and hopeful solution in SAMASAMAJ TATTVA, rooted in that universal desire of all beings to simply live and thrive. It feels very grounding.
it's a perspective shift, isn't it? Encouraging us to see past divisions and focus on our shared humanity, our shared needs and aspirations. It's empowering.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, we really hope this discussion has offered some new ways to think about why we act the way we do, individually and collectively. Maybe sparked a few aha moments.
And hopefully illuminated the potential for a future built on a more universal understanding of well-being, moving beyond those sentimental limitations.
So maybe a final thought to leave everyone with, reflecting on Sarkar's ideas, how might really consciously working on our rational thinking and our empathy, how might that change the social and political world we see?
Yeah, and what could embracing that core principle, ensuring the survival and well-being of all, truly unlock for humanity's future? It feels like a vision worth striving for, doesn't it? A much more positive, interconnected path forward.